Welcome to Awakening to Wokeism, this week's episode of the Faith and Fiction Podcast. Join Matt and his co-host, The Rev, as they discuss how being woke has shifted from loving your neighbor to hating your politics. Welcome to the conversation.
All right. Welcome once again to Faith and Friction. We just love creating friction and diving into it. I don't even know if we have to create it, do we? We might create
I
it.
enjoy it. I'm not sure I've said I love creating friction yet, but I'm leaning that direction.
I kind of like it myself. It gives us a new perspective and it sets a little bit on edge and it's a little uncomfortable. But if we don't go there, guess what? Great things never come from comfort zones. We got the bread on the wall here.
Amen. Amen.
All right.
Sure.
So here we are. We're in our non-comfort zone or uncomfort zone. That's the right word we ought to use. So this can be an interesting episode in that we're going to talk about a topic that may be off a lot of people's radar, but it has some pretty significant ripple effect in the church, in our culture, in society. It's set up discomfort zones, the us and them and all of that. And we just kind of want to debunk some of that.
And it's also doing what is a challenge with the human race, is a word, an intention of a word, then getting twisted and turned and manipulated and labeled to be something it was not originally intended to be. When I talk about this topic today, I live in being awake. My job as a pastor to help people stay awake. First of all, wake up, then stay awake. And my job is to do it for myself.
I love that. Okay. Yeah. We as I think as a culture, as Americans, and I'm not even going to go across the pond or anything because it certainly will apply to them. We're asleep. We live so much of our life asleep or sleepwalking.
Sleepwalking, and the nicest characterization of what's going on, the night of the living dead. The walking dead is also sometimes what I see. It's gone deeper than sleepwalking.
Oh, my. You're peeling back the onion here now, man. Okay. And I think we're going to do some of that.
Speak that word. Speak that word tonight.
So here's the word, gang. Woke.
Faith and wokeism.
How do those things align? Maybe. Or how do they create friction in the culture, in the church? And how can we start to look upon what the words that are being used, the context, the actuality of whether it's being preached from the pulpit or you see it on social, whatever. How can we discern where to put that?
And is there only one way to wake? Is there only one way to not be the night of the living dead and to wake up? That's where it gets dangerous. You have to wake up the way I do. An alarm at 8 o'clock in the morning that sounds like this. I know friends that say, that's not my way. I have a different way, a nice gentle light waking me up at 9 in the morning. The reality is everybody has a different way of waking up in the morning. Okay, right. This is making it simplified a little bit. The reality is, no, you have to wake up the way I say you. I know when it comes from the pulpit, then we have a problem. When it comes from politics and the pulpit in bed together, that's a real problem.
And we are experiencing that right now in America. Let's just call it for what it is.
Yep.
All right. So we're going to jump into that tonight. We're going to talk about how that's happening. What do we see out there as examples of this from both sides of the aisle, although a lot of it comes from the right. And the left
the word
blamed,
woke, and you're going to have, if you have 100 listeners, 50 people are going to go, I really love the word woke. And 50 are going to say, I hate the word woke.
Yep.
And depending on how they've defined it.
Yes.
Defined the term.
There's the key.
Yeah.
That we're going to put out there our definition of that, which isn't going to be off the rails from, I'm not going to call it necessarily the norm, but where it started and then how it got twisted. And then all of a sudden it started having a different connotation. And then all of a sudden, once it did, people were getting beat over the head with it. So we got to debunk some of that stuff and try to give some of our listeners a little different perspective, right? I picked on TPUSA a little bit because they have a high profile. They have a particular way that they look at all of this, the way they use that word. They're certainly not alone, all right? But I can't be all over the map, so we'll just say, and others, all right? We're just going to put that in there that it's just not them, all right? But these are some examples. They're real.
It's one way of looking at that 4-letter word, woke.
Exactly. So here's one of the things that I pulled off their website. Join us in our mission to spread the principles of fiscal responsibility, free markets, and limited government. Rev, you got a problem with that?
I need a little more promise to buy that car.
Okay.
Those are a lot of high ideals that have everything to do with external realities and nothing to do with an internal reality. As I follow the teachers I follow, being awake is an economy on the inside. What's going on between my ears, what's going on in my chest. And this is all about external free markets and limited government. It may be a good ideal at some point, but all roads start within.
Totally agree. Of course, we talk about this all the time. So when it's out there, it becomes about them and not about me. It's about agreeing with that form of government that either is happening or it isn't, but it's a good hook. It's a good hook because we think more about me than we do about the stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
You were just talking about.
And you overlay that statement, join us in our mission to spread the principles of fiscal responsibility, free markets, and limited government. The friction comes to me, overlay faith over that. Now I'm using my faith to make these promises. And that's a little bit scary to me.
That's friction.
Because that is a lot of friction for me.
There it is. Okay.
Wait, where is the inner kingdom? Where is the kingdom of heaven within me? Where is the compassion and the kindness and the love that all the master spiritual teachers have taught? So what's happened here, I think, by this statement is religion and politics have gotten into bed. And that's a very dangerous mix.
Well, and they're almost, you can't discern between the two almost. They're so intricately woven together. And there's, just like anything else, there's snippets, there's little pieces that you can resonate with that you believe are true.
I can find truth everywhere, even in places where I'm not too sure I agree with the whole. There's a percentage of things I can agree with that.
And you turn a blind eye to maybe what are the bigger issues because you're satisfied with the smaller one that gratifies.
So is there an intent or a manipulation, if you will, at the most judgmental place to put the religion and the politics together?
Oh, absolutely.
So I get a little bit of my background spiritually, and I'm avoiding the term Christian nationalism here, but I can't do it, that I'm putting my religious background with an overlay in bed with politics in order to be a hook to get people in. And I think that has happened, and it can happen with any religion. It's happened in Islam as well.
Oh, yeah. They're not exclusive. It's just this is a situation we are dealing with here and now. And so we need to address it now, here.
Yes,
all right?
exactly.
So here's some of the stuff, again, that comes from their website. But again, I'm not going to say they're the only ones that think this way. They have a thing they call TPUSA faith. Now, they market that. They use faith in a different way. It's the TPUSA faith.
Yeah. So we've got a new religion being born.
That's right.
Maybe, or trying.
It's trying, and it's approaching the whole thing using the word faith. All right. Common word, God word. And they are
throw
saying,
the bait out there.
Well, we've come up with how to grid all of this stuff, the faith.
Yeah.
And so we're going to teach it to you. We have a better mousetrap. All right. So there we are. TPUSA faith exists to unite the church around primary doctrine. And we're going to get to that. What does that mean? Primary doctrine. Okay. And to eliminate wokeism from the American pulpit.
They're basically saying, I'm coming after you.
It's our way or the highway, right? we're right and you're wrong.
And so what we have here, a friction for me, is a faith, a new faith being espoused that's about tearing something down.
Yep.
Wow, that's a house built on sand. What am I for, not what I am against? And I think that's really important. That any faith I'm going to invest in or put time and energy in, don't tell me what you're tearing down. Tell me what you're building up.
So that what? So that we can find coming out. So that we can say, hey, we think the same thing. Wow, let's start there.
You're not my enemy.
So here we are. Look, I'm going to give it a little. This still comes from them.
And again, from my context, I know I'm going on a bunny trail here a little bit. I said that my pulpit, my platform, my church is about helping people wake up.
Yeah.
What this statement says, we're helping you go back to sleep. We want you to go back to sleep.
And just agree, we got it.
We got it. We handle it. Just to turn off your mind.
I just shake my head at all. We were talking about the pre-show. I just shake my head. All right. Woke politics. Here we go. Now it's not woke faith. Now it's woke politics. Is a cultural term that generally refers to an intense focus on social and systemic injustices related to race, gender, and power dynamics. All right.
What did Jesus do?
Yeah.
This is put Jesus in the center. He called out the injustices, the hypocrisy, the things that needed to be addressed. Wait a minute. I'm confused now.
It says, while these movements often champion causes Christians should care about, like justice and equality, should Christians care about that stuff?
I would think so.
Yeah,
I would hope so.
I think so. But here it is. It's the deception, what they're saying here. While these movements often champion, their underlying philosophies often conflict with the Christian worldview regarding, here we go, this is what they're going to ground it on, regarding sin, identity, and ultimate truth. Now, that's the foundation of this argument against wokeism as defined. It's lifestyle. At the bottom, it's right to life, justice.
It's also a racism. It can be in there as well.
Yes. Okay. And we talked about this in the pre-show. Racism and what some of this woke thing, and we'll get to critical race theory, because a lot of times that gets bundled in along with under wokeness, right? Now, I'm not saying that's not true, but I'm saying, why are you doing that? Why is that bad? So now you get to add it to your arsenal of wokeism, and now you get to continue with a bigger club. It's like,
in my job and my work, I'm always looking for the divine ideas underneath the surface. And there you had divine ideas of justice and equality. I would include compassion and oneness and belonging and cooperation, all these things. Yeah, those are good things, but what's more important is that we're right and that you're wrong.
Talk more about that stuff. Why don't we hear more about that stuff? The way you want to make America great, not great again, not greater than anybody else.
It's an evolving idea.
Okay. I think our greatness, it should be great at taking care of one another so that we can thrive. Absolutely.
Not at the expense. They play not at the expense of somebody else and what they've earned and what they've created in their life, but as a cooperative partner.
Yes.
As a fellow American. We hear that all the time, fellow American. And this is saying only the fellow Americans that agree with my theological base can belong. So I'll take care of you, but nobody else. That's not the founding documents.
I don't think that's where we want to go.
We get into the whole thing about a Christian nation. No, some of our founding fathers were Unitarians, or some of my very closest friends.
Yes. They were a mixed bag. Were some of them Presbyterians?
Theists, deists.
Yes. It was all over the map.
Yep. And I love that about our country. And that was the original divine intention.
And that's why we got a document that says what it says.
Yeah.
If we had everybody in alignment right down the pike with Presbyterian, right, the prevailing thought, Episcopalians, then we would have that bias completely built in.
Yeah.
All right. So here's a reality as well. All right. That many Republicans, all Republicans, on the campaign trail use it as something of a catch-all to criticize. Catch-all to criticize anything on the progressive side of the political spectrum they don't like. Whether it's teaching about racism in schools, and we talked about this last episode, right? The whole thing about Bible in the classroom, right? This falls right into the same category, right?
And even cutting a little slack, we're not teaching racism in the classroom.
No,
we're just teaching
no.
history. We're teaching our history as Americans, and it's not always so pretty. And it still exists.
It's still, there's the statement.
Yeah.
It still exists. And so we've got a dark underbelly.
And those who don't study history are bound to repeat it.
And we talked last episode about the fact that if you're going to teach history, our heritage as Americans, then what about all the other stuff that, again, slavery, Native Americans? I mean,
we have a racist history. We have a violent history where we have forgotten that we belong to each other and we can coexist. We've forgotten it.
That's exactly right. And we want to forget about it because we don't want it talked about because it's not making us great.
Yeah. When I love America the most, I've loved America the most when there's a tragedy. I hate that it takes a tragedy or a building comes down and people are reaching out their hands to help each other. And nobody's asking, who did you vote for? Or, what party do you belong to? Or what God do you follow? Then I withdraw my hand.
Yeah.
But this is a small thing. It's not that big. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I want to get back to the World Trade Center and people who didn't care. You were just an American. You were somebody that I could help.
Why can't it start a momentum of good instead of reverting right back again after some period of time where we're asleep again to the reality?
Yep.
One of the main points of friction, and I already said this, but we're going to get into it a little bit. One of the main points of the friction in this whole kit and caboodle, whatever you want to call it, confrontation, is that wokeism equals critical race theory.
Yeah.
So now you got the hot button. Now even if you didn't quite think there was a problem with wokeism, now I'm going to throw something, I'm going to pour gas on the fire. And now we're going to say it's all about critical race theory.
And what's happened here is how we started. An idea gets twisted and turned and manipulated to mean something it didn't. I'm waking up. I love the moments when I realize this epiphany, a light bulb goes off and says, wow, I've been espousing something that really isn't conducive to harmony and understanding. I need to be awake to that. Oh, yeah, you're this and you're that. And that suddenly it gets twisted because nobody else wants to wake up to the fact. So the whole family says, Rev, will you just shut up and be quiet because you're rocking the boat?
Thanksgiving dinner.
Thanksgiving dinner gets ruined because I'm just I'm working on some things. Hey, can we all work on this?
Not really. No, thanks. Let's move on.
Exactly. So I call you names and I put you down and I push you off into the corner and say you're bad and you're evil and you're wrong and you don't think the way I do. So now you don't belong.
Yeah. Talk to the hand, right?
Dangerous world.
Critical race theory, at its core, definition-wise, it's a set of ideals holding that racial bias is inherent in many parts of Western society, especially in its legal and social institutions, on the basis of there having been, and here's the kicker, on having been primarily designed for and implemented by white people. Mostly male white people
that look like us.
Yeah. And it's very difficult. I would love to hear somebody tell me that's not true. Now, what you do with it and how you frame it, but to try to think that statement is the world is run by, first of all, men for the most part. There's always the exception.
We're not what we used to be. We're getting better, but we got a long way to go.
Oh, yeah. We got a long way to go.
And anybody that tells you, and I will be bold enough to say that I have no bias whatsoever, is lying.
What?
Again, I'm going to be woke enough to go, I have biases that I have to manage based on my upbringing, based on my experiences. I'm trying to heal all those. And it doesn't make me evil, wrong, or bad that I'm trying to do that. And that I call my environment out to, hey, let's take a moment to examine these biases.
What's the truth? What's the reality? Now, again, people are going to look at that from different positions.
But if people will you're taking me out of my comfort zone. Shut up.
Yeah,
Let me
right.
put you down.
Yeah. You're discriminating now against me. You're persecuting me. When really and truly, and I'm not saying that there aren't laws that are passed and things that start to try to
You
turn
can
the
misuse
tides.
the waking up process.
All right. But at the same time, there's not, like you're talking about, there's not a concession. There's not a humility that says, wow, I got to be honest with you. I don't think that was ever on my radar, really, because I are one and I just live my life.
So his
do my thing.
humility, a necessary component to the evolution of our humanity. I think it absolutely is. And unfortunately, the more humble a demographic gets, the more ego will show its face. And I believe this is the fight that's going on around what the waking up process.
Yes, I think it takes all sorts of flavors and avenues. So there you are, based upon, implemented by white people. Now, again, you can use that to beat up people as well, and it can get twisted.
You can
and
misuse
it can
any tool.
Absolutely. All right. Woke. Here's the next statement. Wokeism. I never heard that word before. I was doing some research. Woke. Of course, I've heard.
Yeah.
Wokeism is one of the newer challenges to Christianity. There's the gauntlet. Okay. There's being thrown down, and now we're saying that's a challenge, and it's not a challenge for me to ponder. I'm challenging you to think a little differently.
Yes.
That's a different thing than I challenge you to say anything different than me. Okay. So this is the
seeking first to understand, to create an environment of understanding and dialogue and conversation. That's a really good intent. And I believe wokeism finds its root there, and then it goes out of control. And a response that comes back can be, wow, let's sit down and talk. Let's talk this through. Let's have that conversation.
Where'd you get that from?
Yes.
How do you understand?
How did you come to that view? Help me understand.
Yeah.
That's a very healthy conversation. But where ego gets in and rises, you're now my enemy. You're calling me out on my stuff, and that's not okay. So now I'm just going to push you down and be bigger and stronger and more violent than you.
I wrote a blog post, a short blog post years ago talking about the red pill and the blue pill. Now, that's not politics, right? That's the matrix. And it was this deal about which environment do you live in? Just Neo had to make his decision, right? And I was saying that just try opening your hand and switching what you would have done and try to take blue pill. Right?
Yeah.
So there's people out there. There are people out there. I think I said the blue pill. Is it the red pill that's the...
I don't remember.
All right. The one that opens your eyes.
Yeah.
Right? The one that says, oh my gosh, I never saw the Matrix.
Well, there's a whole reality here I didn't even know existed.
Exactly. And I should have done my homework, but I didn't. But you get the gist.
But the question we ask is, what are we afraid of? You're asking me to just try this other pill for a minute, other perspective, a different idea. What am I afraid of? And a house that is built upon sand, fear will dominate and say, I will control and fight.
And I will
humility and comfort and strength in my belief system, religiously and politically, says, tell me more. I want to understand how you got to that. I may not agree, but we can have conversation, and there's evolution in that conversation. And I think our willingness to just have the dialogue is just waking up.
Just have it, right? And here's one of the friction points in that one of them, in that whole scenario. If I take that path, then what happens to my tribe? What happens to my association, my affiliation?
I can tell you what will happen
with my tribe.
I might be the next one ostracized from the circle.
There's the
fear. They
fear.
might kick me out. Wow. You want to belong to a circle where people can be kicked out? I want to belong to an organization, an energy where people are brought in. And if we're making decisions based on, I'm afraid my people are going to kick me out. Wow. What kind of organization do you belong to?
Are they really your people then? Come on. Okay.
Right. And that's what I think that we're doing this podcast. Just consider an idea. Is this really what you want to perpetuate? And if it isn't, have the courage, the guts, and the humility to go, I might get kicked out. But then evolution happens. And then your circle and my circle We tear down the walls and we come together.
Yes.
And we meet and go, oh my gosh, there was a
Imagine that.
greater truth here.
Imagine that. We're going to,
And
there's
the
a
world's
greater
more
truth.
peaceful
Yeah.
because we all woke up.
There it is. We need to promote, and I think we do here as we have conversation, to encourage those to wake up. We got to stop the zombie thing.
I have friends that have called me out as a white male about privilege. These are Black people. And they did it in the most kind, loving way. I could have two responses to that. Oh, they're making me uncomfortable. They're attacking me. Or there's something for me to learn here. Something for me to grow. Let's sit down and talk. And I realized they pointed out biases and privileges that I had. It doesn't make me, never once was I considered an evil, awful, terrible person, but it made me understand, helped me understand another's perspective.
There you go.
And why are we afraid to understand somebody's perspective?
It embarrasses us because we have to change our thinking. And that is hard for a lot of us to say, I believe this, but now I don't. We're the exotic cocktails. We talk about it all the time, and we're just a damn mess a lot of times. So wokeism is one of the newer challenges to Christianity. Wokeism, now here's the definition. Wokeism is a worldview that seeks to supplant all other worldviews and cultural philosophies with its assumptions and prescriptions for society. Take my pill.
Yeah, exactly. It's the only pill. It's the only good pill. It's the only right pill. And this accusation is just like a wonderful mirror. Let's hold a mirror up to the people who are challenging wokeism. My way or the highway. And that's not what wokeism is to me. It's not what the people who called me out, not at all. Their intention was much more pure. But when you shut them down and verbally and do whatever it takes to attack them, they're going to rise up and they're going to get louder. So the original intent of being awake has been completely disappeared.
Yes, it has.
It's gone, covered up.
Yes, it is. That's been lost because it's been hijacked. All right.
These next few lines just get my dander up.
Good. There's a friction. I love it. We're going back to wokeism now, right? It is transgressive by nature in that it seeks to overturn traditional cultural values. There we go. There's the hook. All right. And replace them with, oh boy, neo-Marxist / cultural Marxist principles like equity. I read that for the first time and I just almost beat the dog. I don't know. I was so angry.
This line is the very indication of the mindset that's stopping evolution on the planet.
Yep.
If I can label you, I don't have to understand you. If I can call you a name and convince enough people that your agenda and your intention is wrong and bad and evil and malintended, then we don't have to progress at all. We just get to be us and them, me against you.
And yes, people will throw these words out because they're trigger words, first of all.
They're intentional trigger words.
And then the people that hear them, not the people that initiated them, but the people that hear them just go lock, stock, and barrel because the bias is right there. Oh, yeah, sure enough. That's exactly what it is. And nobody think for themselves. We talk about this all the time. This is the way we live our life. Change your mind.
Yeah.
Everything starts with the mind. It's so.
And again, playing fair-handed as I can here, is there malintent to drive something to an agenda that isn't pure? Absolutely. But I look at the people in my life, people of color, people of Persian descent, people of Hispanic descent, that have all called me out on my upbringing and my belief system. None of them had an intent to take anything away from me, but to have me have a greater understanding
and
of
an awareness.
Equality.
Yes. Equality, not equal. Okay. And again,
I'm not going to take anything away from you.
Exactly.
I don't want to take anything away. You earned it. Great.
Yes.
But can you understand where I'm coming from?
A doesn't lead to B. Stop connecting the dots that way. It's easy. It's very easy
If
because
I
you
can
don't have
make
to
you my
do any
enemy,
work.
if I make you my enemy, I don't have to understand you.
Yeah, you don't
And
have
that's
to-
on all sides of the
Well, I
aisle.
agree totally. You don't have to think for yourself.
Yeah.
Yes. if you really, you can read about all this kind of stuff. If you tell somebody 2 and 2 is 5 long enough, and they begin to believe, quote, that 2 and 2 is 5. You can put anything in that equation
Sure.
that you want to, all right? But it's true. Or you just looked at any propaganda stuff that goes on, and there's manipulation. I mean, there
Sure.
just is.
So this line, overturning traditional cultural values, implicit in there is Christian values.
Yeah.
But what are those values? I talked about divine ideas at the beginning of the podcast.
Yep.
What are the divine ideas of America? Cooperation, collaboration, getting along
Yes.
without the religious oppression. So the organization that put that very line out is saying that the people who are asking me to create more equality are against that. No, they're the ones for it. They're the ones that are wanting us to return to the divine idea of America, not the ones that say you have to think the way I think politically and religiously.
Yes. And I think, and they think, even if you talk Christians, that's not unity amongst all of that.
No, how
So
many
it's-
30,000 different sects of Christianity?
It's so arrogant, and there's so much hubris involved. But remember, go back to Turning Point statement. We've got to keep wokeism out of the pulpit.
Yes,
All right.
eliminate it completely,
Eliminate it.
destroy it.
So we got to go back to that. All right. So now we're going to say churches, this is, again, reinforcing, churches must proclaim God's design for humanity. Do I have a problem with that statement? No, not at all. Churches must proclaim God's design for humanity, sin, justice, and redemption. All right. Now, what grid are you going to run those things through?
Oh, my grid and my grid alone.
How I define it. What's sin in my world, right? And I'm going to then apply it to your life.
And thus, I'm God now. I think God's way bigger than my simple little grid. But no, I'm right, you're wrong, so you got to follow my grid, or you don't belong in the circle, and you're going to be ostracized and eventually eliminated. That's a dangerous place that historically has not.
It doesn't create a lasting, sustainable, relational culture.
Yeah.
We're constantly at odds with each other. I heard this years and years ago. If you can imagine God, right, then you have an imaginary God. I heard that. Yeah, I said, oh my gosh, you're right. The minute I begin to start using all these labels and everything, and I know it's the best we can do. We can do the words we have. But when it's defined as it, the truth, and that's the way
And
it
the
is.
only truth.
We
One
got a
thing I
problem.
do, there's a lot that I argue with the Quran, but the Muslims have a phrase, God is always more.
I love
But that takes a little bit of humility. Now, it has not been lived in all Islamic cultures now.
No,
It's
of
not
course
been lived in any culture here in the United States, not the divided states, united.
Gee, I love that. All right. So as we wrap up, just a few thoughts that I got from, again, TPUSA in a little video that they did, and that happened to have Charlie Kirk in it before.
God rest his soul.
Yeah, for sure. But it really, the conversation boiled down to America's the greatest thing since sliced bread, first of all right? So you start from that place, and now all of a sudden, you got a very narrow view of the rest of the world.
Yep.
And you get pompous, you get
Totally
about
arrogant.
us. It's an arrogance. All right. So, but here's a couple of statements that they made. Capitalism is the most moral and proven economic system ever discovered. You know what? I want to throw up at that statement, man. I want to just go, where in the hell did you get that from? It's your bias. It's what you've been narrowly taught and allowed yourself to be sucked into. I can't say it any other way. I study capitalism and economics. That's what I do for a living. And to try to say that capitalism is the most moral,
Yeah.
oh my God, no way.
I look at indigenous cultures who coexisted, collaborated together, co-created, and lived together, not with the idea of I got mine, you're on your own. And that's a pretty narrow vision of capitalism, but that's where it can go if it's misused.
Sure,
If you have every right to get yours, and to earn it and to work for it. And it's not the most moral system.
I don't even know how they can even. Oh my gosh!
Proven economic indigenous people prove that we can collaborate, and I got mine, and I share with all of you.
What a novel concept! Oh my gosh! Oh,
I know we're a little bit late here, but there's an old story about a tour of heaven and hell, and there's the guy goes into St. Peter and says, "This is what hell looks like," and there's bowls of soup in front of all the people sitting there, but they all have their arms bound. So they cannot get the spoon from the bowl into their mouth. That's hell. Then he says, next room, this is heaven. And in that next room, what's happening is the same situation, same soup, same bound arms, but I'm taking my scoop and I'm feeding the person across the table from me. That story has touched me. I find heaven on earth with what I do, not only for myself, but for all, for the greater good of everyone.
I know. Leather, rinse, repeat, man.
And nobody's going to tell me, I get this becomes political. Don't tell me I have to do it.
Yeah.
But I think we've lost that natural instinct to create heaven on earth by helping each other.
Yeah. And a lot of our faith and religion promotes out there instead of in here. All right. Last thing on it all is said, and here's the grounding. Here, really, this is it. Biblical truth is the only reliable reality. You ascribe to that, and where does that go? Oh, my goodness.
Suffering. The cause of all suffering on the planet is greater than and less than. My religion is better than yours, period.
I don't know how anybody can even say that and then write it down. The only. And not only is it the only, it's the only reliable reality? I don't know. I really don't have.
It's taking that pill that has a very narrow field of reality, little r reality.
I don't have any words for that, man. I just hope, I pray, I'd hope and pray that our listeners and anybody that wants to share us, that we can help them wake up. Because if you're there, I would just love to be able to share some of our perspective and the way our truth, and maybe it'll make a difference, right? Maybe it'll just make a difference. I don't know.
That's the intent of what we do here.
Yeah.
Is just to open up your corner of your mind to a different reality.
Yes.
One that's a little bit more kinder and more loving, more supportive of the totality of God's beautiful kingdom.
Amen, brother. So I'm glad you're woke. I'm glad.
Well, I go to sleep sometimes 3 times a day, not even intending to do.
No, I know. We're all both on a path that says, let's try to live our life to the best of our ability, woken, as far as opposed to asleep. And that's our encouragement to everybody.
And I'm going to look at TPUSA and go, there's a divine idea there. And I may not agree with how it's being twisted or manipulated or spoken about, but I'm going to hold fast to look beneath the surface. There's an intention there for a greater peace. Okay, I got a hope there.
Yep. So there we are. Great episode. Thanks again, Rev. I appreciate it, man. Thank everybody for listening, and we'll do it again next week. Take care.